Hey guys, Fire here from InDepth Gaming, bringing you another game review. This time we're checking out Construction Simulator. Construction Simulator was developed by Welton Bauer, Software and Winklung, apologies if I mispronounced those, and published by Astragon Entertainment, and released on September 20th, 2022 for a price of $49.99. Now, this is a little interesting the way they named these games. This is, I guess, the fourth game in the series, but the third one to hit Xbox. But is it named Construction Simulator 4? It's just Construction Simulator, but there's also a 2 and 3. So if you want the newest version of Construction Simulator, you want it without a number in it. If that kind of helps break up any of that confusion. You can also see when they released on the store to help make sure you get the right version of the game. But yeah, so what is Construction Simulator? It's simply a simulation game where you get to work as a heavy equipment operator, employee, owner kind of sorts, where you're coming into this town and you're starting to do various construction jobs, getting your name out there and operating different machinery. The game starts off pretty slow. You're going to see some earlier gameplay footage of mine that I chose to do where I'm going to be working on swapping out a gas station like gas tank for a elderly couple, but you'll also start with simple jobs. But what I do like about the game is it's not afraid to hold back and throw you into some of those bigger, like when you were a small child wanting to dive into giant machinery and operate things like cranes, excavators, bulldozers, haul trucks, and even just driving around and picking up and delivering things. It's honestly something that's pretty fun and a nice take on a simulation game on the console. I haven't got a chance to play Construction Simulator 2 or 3, so unfortunately I don't personally have a comparable, but talking to a couple other creator friends of mine, I know that they are fairly enjoyable games and something that can be quite fun. Now, when it comes to the controls of the game, I will say that if you're looking for a game that's going to have simplistic controls and be super easy to operate and use, you're probably going to struggle with this game in the sense of it's not that user friendly when it comes to anyone who struggles with, you know, operating or playing very controller dexterity esque style games. It definitely is heavy driven on analog sticks and being able to maneuver and operate things while you're playing. So keep that in mind while you're going through the game. That if you struggle with precision movements and controls and constantly changing systems and games, this might be a game that you'll come across as very challenging. But I think at the same time, it'll feel very rewarding for most users as well. It just, like I said, takes time to get the hang of things. But overall, isn't something that's going to really cause a pain point for you. I just wanted to kind of point that out. Now, the game does offer broken down tutorials to help explain how to do everything when it comes to being an operator, so it's not the end of the world, as well as, you know, making things a little more easier for you in the sense of how to play the game, but it is a very more difficult game. Now let's dive in and talk a little bit about the game itself. It's done very well and done very accurately. Personally, when I was younger, I used to do heavy equipment operation, so I know that this, you know, kind of gives me that sense of like I'm really playing it and doing the things in the game. And for me, that's something that I actually have really enjoyed. It kind of gave me a throwback to some of my original career points. Now, with that being said, the issues that I do have with the game is through my play experience, I've been struggling to really get a good basic control when it comes to the camera and how things work in game with that. I constantly struggle with, trying to make sure I have a good viewpoint with where I'm looking, and it seems like a lot of things can be very clunky in the sense of where the AI wants you to be seeing versus if you want to be in a specific viewpoint while you're playing. Now, you can go in and out of a sort of cab view, but it still at the same time can be very annoying at the same sense. And even sometimes when you're doing certain jobs, as you can see here, I'm simply just trying to fill up a hole. The game, I feel like, could have done a little more animation style aside from just giving me a, hey, here's where you're at on the progress bar. Boom, this hole just magically fills up. Versus, man, it looked like there was a lot of dirt there that I could have really spent my time going with and getting a lot more work done. And for me, it's a rewarding experience while you're playing this game and doing things, but at the same time, it is also just a little bit of a frustration point when it comes to the things that I'm working on in the game. Like, I would love to feel a little more rewarded, and it would take a lot longer than 3 loads to fill that hole. And you'll kind of get that sense with certain other jobs when you are playing as well. I definitely got the vibe when it came to kind of operating the crane and it wanting to almost like magnetizedly lock onto things versus letting me feel a little more rewarded and spending the time to learn the machinery. I also wish that there was maybe an option that I haven't found, and maybe it's there, so correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. A way to just have my vehicle controls always displayed on the screen instead of just going into a help screen menu and having to figure out what my controls allow me to do and jumping back and forth instead of just, hey, let them display there on my screen, dependent on the machine. And for me, that definitely would be a lot more enjoyable. But the thing that this game has is where it lacks for me personally with certain things it makes up for it with just the sheer level of details and way the environment works. Artistically this game looks great. All the machines look and feel kind of the way they are outside of when you're kind of driving down the road. Nobody's going to take a cement truck going, 80 to 100 miles per hour down a city street, and they tend to not really accelerate up, at the levels of the game wants it to be. Especially when they're fully loaded. If you've ever been in that kind of environment, and even when it comes like early in the game when you're driving things like a semi, it can seem to be a little frustrating, and at times it can also sometimes seem like some of the tasks and things the game wants you to do, although it's more realistic, you know, can seem a little monotonous at times. But that's kind of just how simulation games work. You're not always going to have monotonous things to do in the game, and that's kind of just par for the course. And if you're a person who likes games like this, like farming simulators, and you don't mind plowing a field for hours and hours, if you enjoy construction simulators, you're not going to mind sitting behind the wheel of a truck and sitting and driving 20 minutes between each little 30-second mission point. But for people who aren't used to games like that, I definitely just want to call that out. For me, like, this is an enjoyable experience. I love these kind of games. I kind of gives me like a vibe playing Truck Driver that came out on Xbox many years ago when you're hauling loads just all across like a fake Canada US kind of area, and it feels a little more rewarding. Um, but at the same time, it's can be a nuisance and be a deterrent for certain players. So even like the ability to shorten that up, or even optionally give a chance to kind of just skip that. Maybe that's a part in the game. Maybe it's not. I don't think it is, but you never know. Outside of that, though, I've definitely enjoyed my time with Construction Simulator. As far as an opinion with overall visuals, I think I've already kind of called out. I think this game is great, and I really enjoy it. I think aesthetically, it hits the bar perfectly. Everything looks the way it should. There's tons of detail, and I love seeing all the various, you know, name brand machineries from Cat and so forth. Really represented in the game, and it feels authentic in that nature. Soundtrack, maybe a little like everything sounds the way it should, but maybe they're being a little more music in the game, or things that are baseline setting. For me, like I'm one of those who I don't like to get a game and have to cater it every time to the way I want. I'd like it to be kind of a good fit. And I play tons of games and I never adjust settings. I play them the way they are. And, that's kind of just how I kind of scale things sometimes. As far as controls, game's super simplistic, but it's definitely got very deep and skill based controls when it comes to operating things efficiently and can be overwhelming for new gamers. Outside of that, though, as far as an opinion of buy, sell, pass for Construction Simulator, I think if you are into simulation games and you like games like Farming Simulator, Truck Driver, or prior Construction Simulator games, this is definitely a buy, no matter with a no-brainer. But if you're not used to these simulation style games and are curious if this might be a game for you, it comes in at a $50 price point, so that's kind of a steep endeavor to hop into simulation games. I might recommend, I believe it's around $20, picking up Truck Driver on Xbox first, or trying some simulation-based games on Xbox Game Pass if that's an option for you, before you dive into this at $50. But if you definitely like those games, this is definitely a game, to then pick up and give a shot. I think you'll enjoy it. You've got well over 20 plus hours of, time to spend into this game and enjoy it. And for me, it's been something that has been fun, but where I'll do a job and then put it down and then do a job a little bit later and then put it back down. I'm not gonna, you know, kind of just play and idle at this game forever. But yeah, nonetheless, that's kind of what I think of Construction Simulator. Outside of that, if you have any questions or want to know more, please let me know down below in the comments. Outside of that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and we'll catch you guys next time.